Hello Martin, I'd like to explain a little bit about the accessory I made here for the Acu Strike outdoor golf mat. That the Acu Strike golf mat, the outdoor version, comes with these four holes in the corners, and without any modification to the mat at all. My idea is just simply having a separate product that's an accessory for this product. For those who might buy this, might also buy this, and the AccuStrike would just simply fit right on it. So let me explain a little bit to you. I'm going to send you a couple of these, but imagine this coming out of the box like this, and it's just a couple of these, relatively inexpensive non-slip mats, and these are really just for convenience. They don't affect the function of this pivoting structure. So when you take it out of the box, you'll see there's a couple of wing nuts, bolts, just some hardware that you use to attach the mat to it. Then you can unfold the ball ramp, and you see I placed the Tour Striker logo on the ball ramp. Now this ball ramp is quite different from the ball ramp on the pivot mat that I last sent to you. This is not meant to replace that. This is a separate product. And the reason the ramps are different is because the this particular design here uses the holes that are in the AccuStrike mat, so it attaches at the ends, whereas the turf on the pivot mat attaches in the middle. So you couldn't have this space in the middle of the pivot mat. Now, where they really differ, this does not offer the flexibility of pivot mat, and pivot mat also has this nice large area for branding or logo or whatever you want to put on there, and it also covers the area that you don't want to use for irons. And also you have this area here on the back where you could place labels, instructions, or whatever other kind of things you want to communicate to the user. And also it folds very nicely, and it's compact. Now this would be for someone who just wants to just swing away, a striker, someone who's more experienced maybe, who doesn't want to use the AccuStrike mat, because they serve different purposes. So anyways, this is one product and this is another. But as you can see, well, let me show you how the AccuStrike fits. But also, this is polycarbonate. It's just two sheets of 8x10 polycarbonate, just bought off the shelf at Home Depot for $4.49 each. You can buy them in bulk for cheaper than that. But this is very strong. You're not going to break it, hitting with an iron on it. And you do need to have a plastic that is not breakable. Another plastic that could be used is PETG, which is kind of considered the poor man's version of polycarbonate. It's a little bit cheaper, but you want something that's not going to break. So this is polycarbonate. If I took a hammer to this right now, I couldn't break it. And you can see it just fits the 19-inch rails. So my rails happen to be the same length as the AccuStrike mat, and the 8x10 pieces of polycarbonate, the 10-inch dimension happens to be just as wide as the AccuStrike mat. This is stapled on here. These are the polycarbonate stapled to the rails. If I were making this, I would probably recommend at least some spot bonding, maybe just on the ends, like right here, because I can imagine that hammering on this with an iron over some time might loosen these forward screws or forward staples. These staples back here are really deep. They're more than an inch into the, or at least a good inch into the material here, so they're not coming out. So it won't come off, but these staples up here are not as deep. So, if you just did a spot bond on, out towards the end, you may prevent some rattling if, these were to come a little bit loose. That's just a thought. Your manufacturing guy will have an opinion. But this is all stapled together, and the nail gun as well. So there's no screws here, and I drilled 4 holes in the polycarbonate to account for the 4 holes in Acu Strike. And depending on whether you're a left-handed golfer or right-handed golfer, you put the mat down or turn it around if you swing from the other direction, and you just use the hardware at the appropriate end. So you got to have this. You got to have the holes in both ends of this structure. You also, I don't know if you can't see, but these holes I drilled are like 3/8 of an inch. They're quite a bit bigger than the actual bolt or the hole, and that's to account for variance in the manufacture of the Acu Strike mat. I don't know how controlled their processes are. If they can get their hole in this mat, all 4 of them, in the same place every time, or if they have a little bit of variance. If we tried to put the holes exactly the exact size, and their holes are a little bit off, then they won't line up. The way to account for that is to make a bigger hole here, and that will make sure that some portions of the hole do align, and you'll be able to use the hardware to put it in place and secure it. So I would suggest to your manufacturer that they verify where they need to put the holes, because I just eyeballed it. They're not perfectly aligned, but I just put the drill on it and just said, hey, yeah, it looks good there, without measuring. They all line up, but I would verify, maybe even with Acu Strike, that their holes in their mat for their manufacturing process is pretty consistent. Because if they were to change their holes, that would mess this up. So all they have to do is nothing, and verify to you that they get their holes pretty much in the same place every time. So, but let me just show you how it works. You'll notice, I don't know if you'll notice, the hardware here sticks up, and that's because if you can imagine this being flipped around and down through, it would stick out beyond the plane here of the rail, and this end wouldn't really pivot much, and this would have an opportunity to really mar up a surface that you might not want to mar up. So if you just insert it from the bottom, it gives you the clearance you need, and it's a lot easier to install. Imagine that you have some older golfers who want to put this together, and it just screws together with these wing nuts very easily from the top. All you got to do is hold the bottom a little bit. So let me put the mat on top. This is the one. I'm going to send both of these to you. One that you can send to China for pricing, and the other for you to use to play around with and just get to know or demonstrate. So if I put the pivot mat on here and just stick the bolt through the bottom. And just align it to, just eyeball it. just so that it looks good to you. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then just you can just put your finger on the bottom of the bolt underneath and just secure it, and now just finger tighten. Doesn't have to be super tight. Okay. So you see this ramp. It can't deploy or it can't fold it away when the mat's on top. But again, you don't. These don't. My idea isn't these don't come together. That's obviously it could be sold as one set. But if you wanted to store it with the mat on top, you could still always put it underneath, and you have a little bit of some convenience for storing. And you can see your Tour Striker brand on there. Actually, this looks pretty cool. I like this ball ramp, but it only works when you're able to have that space in the middle here. So you'll notice that the wing nuts stick up a little bit in the back, but that's okay because the Acu Strike mat can only be used in one direction because it only changes color in this direction. So you're always going to be swinging this way. So on this device, you're always going to be playing down here. So you're a good foot or more away from those wing nuts down there. Not only that, they're 8 inches apart, so you're playing in between. So if you're club-headed, if you're striking them, out to the side and a foot or more back from behind, you're probably swinging with your eyes closed. So I don't think that's anything to worry about. But if you wanted to do something about it, let me tell you what your options are. This angle right here, like the old design, you don't have to cut it. It could just be straight, so that when this pivots down, it stops, and then this gives the clearance to put it underneath. There's some advantages and disadvantages to that. The advantages are you could get this underneath, and you could move the pivot point back and have a larger hitting area. But the disadvantages are, if you recall that older design, if you were to hit hard on it, it would go up a little bit and would come down and kind of stop and make that annoying noise. And that's because it absorbed the energy real quick and hard. With this design, it pivots back and more gently absorbs the energy, and which is much more easier to listen to. But the big disadvantage is you lose a ramp because you can only hit in one direction on the Acu Strike mat. So if you're a lefty, you have to, if I'm hitting right, and say I have the ramp here, if I want to hit left, I actually have to turn the thing around, and now the ramp is facing me, and you don't want the ramp to face you. So if you go to that older design, you really lose the universal ramp functionality. So my recommendation is to leave it like this because it's very easy to install this way, and you get to keep the ramp, and the absorption of energy is better when it's settling. So but you'll look at it. You'll have an opinion about it. You could also get something lower profile. You don't have to use a wing nut, and you could probably get a bolt that's a 1/4 inch less and use a nut. You could probably get that down if you want. But using the wing nut's a lot easier. You probably will have some questions about this, so I guess that's all I really have to show you. these mats. This mat again is just to use underneath on a surface, and what this mat here does is keep it from sliding, and it dampens the noise and makes it a lot easier to use. And the other mat I have here, and this could be a smaller size, is to put it under and the reason for that is it doesn't affect functionality, but you know, when you hit it, if it's just on the bare plastic, you can feel that a little bit in the club, and it's noisier. So if you can hear that and hear this, there's a difference. So you could put some padding under here to eliminate a little bit of that knocking and to feel a little more cushion, but it is going to rotate down. But anyways, I'll include that. You can give that a try. The ball ramp here actually works pretty good. So I made this ball ramp to accommodate pressure from the club, people raking up, so it'll move a little closer in, and over time it'll start to sag. So when it's new, it'll stick up a little bit, but over time it'll get closer and be further down. So anyways, I'm gonna end the video here, and if I think of anything else, I'll either send an email or include another video. But check it out, and let me know if you have any questions.